Okay, just really quickly here to remind everybody, my Big Agnes Fly Creek UL2 with its with the tent, the stuff sack, the poles, and the stuff bag for the poles is right at 2 pounds. Okay, and that's a double wall tent. I have a new little tent that I've bought that I want to kind of take a look at as an option. Kind of look at the volume that tent takes up on the scale here, and I'm going to show you my new Gossamer, Gossamer Gear, the one. Okay, there's the one. As you can see, it's a little bit smaller volume-wise, and it is just 1 pound, 6 ounces. So that's 22 ounces, and the other one was 32 ounces. So this is a good 10 ounces lighter. That it is a single wall with this kind of a hung bathtub and a net, much like the Z-Packs, but it is only a one-side entry, not a two-side entry, and it may suffer from having a little bit of a pack explosion difficulty, being that it's smaller, but I wanted to check it out. It uses, of course, the trekking poles as tent poles. Now the Big Agnes routinely sets up with 8 stakes. I think 10 comes in the package when you buy it. Of course, I went to I used the MRS groundhogs instead. This tent says it'll set up with 6, but the guideline ones need to be kind of a substantial stake, not just the little light titanium ones. But it requires 10 if you stake out the bathtub. I watched the real Hiking Viking set his up, and he used 10 because he staked down the bathtub first. The Gossamer Gear video doesn't stake out the bathtub. They just stake out the corners of the tent and put it up with 6. But then at the end, when they show this nice, beautifully pitched tent, you'll notice that the bathtub is actually staked down. They didn't tell you they did it, but you can tell that it's staked down with 10. So probably not going to be able to get rid of any stakes with this tent. But I am going to probably go to some carbon core for the corners and for the bathtub, and that'll substantially decrease my weight. But all right, taking the kids, my grandkids, camping tomorrow, and I'll take it with me, and we'll see how it does in the humidity. And if I'm going to get condensation, it's probably going to happen tomorrow. Okay, so my impressions here of the one from Gossamer Gear. Got up so late here last night that it was night when we pitched it, and it was pretty flat, but I actually got it a little bit of there's a ridge right in the center, so I kind of either way I would have turned last night. I was kind of sleeping with my head down just a little bit, so the sleep was not great. Now we got out here last night, there was already dew on the grass, there was fog. You can see here from the car, it's all a lot of dew. So even right after I pitched it, I was already getting condensation on the inside, and that's to be expected. The only thing is, like when my grandkids are on my old REI nightlight, you know, it's got condensation in it because it's double walled. They didn't really get wet, but unfortunately I did. You can see that how it's designed here. The trekking poles actually are leaning out at the top, so it gives you a little bit more room at the top. This is the foot box here. It's 24 inches wide, and I used my Tyvek from my Big Agnes, and it almost fits. I'd probably get a different piece and trim it down a little bit. And then you can see that the head box here with the Gossamer Gear symbol, that's 36 inches wide. I don't know, I wish they'd actually designed it so that both the foot and the head box were both 36 inches. That would help a little bit better with the pack explosion. I didn't bring a pack out with me tonight, but I'll give you a little idea here of the room, or not. So there's my my top quilt, and you can see there's a little bit of room here for some gear to be thrown around on the edge. Now, what I experienced, and you can see them now, if you can see the drops or not running down here, you can see the water. Hold on, my granddaughter needs me. Crisis has been handled. You can see the pillow's wet from drips. My pad is wet down here from drips, and that's what I experienced throughout the night. Is they would run, collect, and they'd drop about where my head was. You can see there's quite a bit of condensation in here. This probably had a little bit of 6 ounces of weight maybe to it to pack it up wet. It's not quite, well, it's not quite wet as if it had been raining, but I'll try and do a rain test with it too when I get a chance. But you can see there's quite a bit of water down in the inside of the foot box here. I elected to stake out the foot box, and it was pretty taut when I got in it, but with the moisture here, it's already kind of collapsing just a little bit. The tent could be, the tent could be drawn up a little tighter now because of it being a little bit wet. But anyway, so yeah, single wall tent, you're going to get a lot of condensation, and if I were out backpacking, this would be one of those mornings where I'll be packing up wet and probably taking the tent out and the sleeping bag out at lunchtime if it was sunny, and letting them dry. So anyway, the only difference between this and having a wet tent, which I often would with the Big Agnes, I'd still, the inside of the Rainfly would still have a condensation on it. It's just that that this time you have to deal with wet gear on the inside, and you can see that there's enough room with the, as it is now. If I got in underneath my underquilt, it would be touching the wet roof on my feet. So I ended up actually pulling up doesn't show it now, but I actually had the Neo Air up against the edge of the foot box there, and that then gave me a little more room in the feet. But then with my broad shoulders and in the middle of the night when I actually had the quilt up around my arms here in Florida, didn't get too cold, but just enough to put, I would turn over and then my quilt would touch the roof here and get wet. So and I'm 5'10" not quite. I used to be 5'10", but age has compressed me a little bit. So if you're a little bit taller, 6 foot, you're going to, on a night like tonight, your bag's going to get wet on both the feet and the shoulders. I don't see any way to avoid it. I mean, it was 100% humidity. So yeah, that's one of the prices to pay for camping out on a humid and relatively cool night where you get your dew point and your temperature about the same, and we ended up with just pretty much fog in the air. So all right, those are my first impressions. Hope it helps in your decision if you want to buy one or not. I still have to figure out if I want to try and take it on my next section hike to finish up the trail, or stick with the Big Agnes, or maybe jump back to the hammock. Got some decisions to make. Hey, Gossamer Gear provides 4 of these tie-outs, and they go here on these corner tabs, and I suppose they're used for wind. Okay, there's one on each side. I was thinking, if you were facing a situation like last night where you're going to get huge amounts of condensation on the inside just because of the nature of the vegetation, or like we had fog. I remember we had fog roll in last year up on, it was a Chestnut Knob there where they have the stone shelter, and everything got wet inside the tent because this humidity just came rolling through, and everything got wet on the inside too. But if you attach one here, and then I don't have a stick, unfortunately, where we're at, you put a stick in there, much like you do with your hammock tarp. You pull that up. That might help with the angle a little bit, so your feet are not, and your shoulders are not touching the sides, and plus it gives a little bit better angle, so instead of dripping down on you, it will hopefully then, if it runs, it'll run down to that seam right there, and that seam will soak, and hopefully it won't come inside and get inside the foot box. So I know, just a thought. That's a way to mitigate it. Just get a stick and prop it up along that line there, and just raise up the angle, if you will, on that roof. All right. Okay, I'm the rest of the way awake now. As I walk away, I kind of look, and that wasn't a really great pitch last night. I've got this end is a little bit higher, and this end isn't. That may have helped a lot with the problem in the foot box. So yeah, you know, you get what you get when you pitch it in the dark. Okay, that looks like a little bit better picture perfect pitch on the tent. That may definitely help out a little bit more on that down foot box side there. So anyway, a little lesson learned about pitching a tent in the dark. Okay, I'm a stuffer, and by the time I shook it off and put it in here, I'll tell you, it feels like it basically got soaked in the rain. So I'm going to go ahead when I get back to the house, put this on the scale and see what it is packing it out wet. Okay, like I mentioned, I stuffed this back in pretty wet from all that dew. It felt pretty equivalent to being rained on. And it is at 2 pounds, 1 1/4 ounces. So that's 33 ounces versus, what's it, 21 dry. So yeah, that added a little bit of weight, that extra water from packing it up wet.